no, 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 no. Porque ni siquiera sabemos si va a ir a la presidenta. ¿Sí me entiendes? Y
¿Que
yo
tú crees que no vaya?
digo, yo no sé, es que yo no sé. La verdad es que no, no sé. Aguántame un segundito.
¿Que tú crees que no vaya?
A ver, perdóname, tengo que cerrar. Un segundo. A ver. Welcome back. Welcome back to Living in Mexico. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, especially on this historic weekend where judicial elections are taking place. And not only are we following this process very closely, you know, we assume that we're not going to have clear-cut results. We may know how many people voted, but that's about it. But you know, it's important to talk about it. But there's other issues that happened this week that we need to address, and issues that decisions that are taking place in the United States that are clear that have an enormous impact on Mexico. And of course, one of the decisions this week made by the International Tariffs Court. I believe that's the name in English. But anyway, I mean, the judicial system in the United States, on the other hand, is, you know, it's making very interesting decisions, and they're still part of the checks and balances that are so necessary in all democracies. So I'm not, you know, I don't know where all of these cases where these judges are questioning Donald Trump's decisions, not only in tariffs, but the firing of people, the destruction of the federal government. I mean, there's a lot of suits taking place. Harvard put in, I guess, at least 2 or 3 suits that I know of in terms of the decisions of Donald Trump against that university. But I think one of the strategies that we do need to once again go back and try to understand is what's happening with the tariffs war. And a lot happened this week. That's why I really appreciate Jorge Molina, Dr. Jorge Molina, joining us once again. Jorge, I know this is a big task to ask you, but can you just briefly describe to us where are we right now in terms of some of the judicial decisions made this week, but also some of the statements made by President Donald Trump? And of course, we're talking about the tariff war. Welcome to the show, Jorge.
Thanks once again, Ana Maria. And the short answer is we are exactly as we were last week, because basically the decision made by the International Trade Court on Wednesday afternoon said that the reciprocal tariffs and the tariffs that were applied to Mexico, Canada, and China because of fentanyl were going to be eliminated because they were illegal, since they were based on a law that does not apply in this case, which is the International Economic Emergency Powers Act of 1977. But on
We
the
know that law.
same afternoon,
We know that law. We used to call it AIPA, because I actually was in
exactly,
some sessions where AIPA
exactly.
they were considering to use AIPA to go against not only Colombian criminal organizations, but also Mexican criminal organizations. So it's a very interesting law. We don't have time to talk about it right now, but it was used basically against countries like Mexico as a sanction for not going against organized crime, right?
Now, the bottom line is that this law from 1977 has never been used before. It was designed basically in order to have a legal resource when back in the 1970s there was a lot of instability because of the oil crisis that started in 1973 and lasted throughout the 1970s. But it has never it has never been used. So Trump uses it for the first time. And basically, what happens is that this three judges panel of the International Trade Court says it's illegal to try to use this law because there is no such an economic emergency right now. Therefore, the reciprocal tariffs and the tariffs on fentanyl for Mexico, Canada, and China have to be eliminated. As I was saying, on the same day, on Wednesday afternoon, the Trump administration appeals, and then the following day comes the decision that until June the 5th, uh, the tariffs will remain. Why? Because on June the 5th, the plaintiffs, who are basically a group of small companies throughout the United States and 12 state attorney generals of 12 states, they're going to have to submit a new document saying why is it necessary to eliminate it, or why is it necessary to bring down these tariffs, why they are illegal. That's one. And then that's going to be on June the 5th. By June the 9th, the Trump administration has to submit its response to these comments. And then on June the 15th or 16th, we'll have the final decision. So in the meantime, tariffs remain absolutely the same. So, but also on Thursday afternoon, on Thursday morning, there was a second case in which another judge in another court also failed against the IEPA, IEPA, whatever. But what this second judge said was that he was going to give the administration 14 days in order to defend itself in this with this other decision. Bottom line, if we're talking about Mexico, we have right now four basic tariffs that are being applied to our exports. The first one is the fentanyl tariff, which is for those products that do not fulfill the rule of origin. The same thing for Canada, and those are around 10%.
Right.
Number two, the steel and aluminum tariff, each one is 25%, and we will talk about something else a little bit later. And then there's also the 25% tariff on automobiles and auto parts. All of those remain in place at least until June the 15th or 16th, when this judge is going to fail, or it's going to
Now,
give the final decision.
what I mean, I was reading, I read part of the complaint, and basically also the document, the appeal by which the White House is appealing the decision of this international tariff courts, which by the way is in the United States. But what was kind of striking, it seemed like that any tariffs that were actually that the government obtained in this time, or in the last couple of days, that they would have to return those tariffs to the companies that pay for it. I thought that was kind of interesting. But then there's also this issue that if Trump can't use IEPA or any of these authorities, that there are other authorities that will allow him to impose tariffs. So the question is, do you think the decision will give some clarity to the investors and people who export to the United States as to what is going to be the tariff situation, or based on this decision in June, or simply it's just going to push back there's going to be a pushback, and there's going to be more statements and orders by President Donald Trump using other authorities? You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't seem that this decision by these judges, which could seem that it has some finality, really is basically what's going to do is going to push. It's a pushback to Donald Trump looking for other different types of authorities to continue with this trade war.
What you are saying is key, because basically the tariffs seem to be the major element
Mm-hmm.
for applying pressure on other countries that Trump is planning to use throughout this second government period. Now,
Right.
by declaring or deciding that these tariffs based on IEPA are illegal,
Mm-hmm.
it's setting a major precedent because it means that if he tries to use the same argument once again,
Mm-hmm.
he may
Mm-hmm.
be rejected once again. So
Once
basically,
again.
what happens is that if he's going to continue applying tariffs, he's going to have to use some other avenue. And basically, what we have, or what would it be, the bottom line is either using some of the different, what can I say, the different elements that the 1974 Trade Act gives the president and Congress in order to raise
Mm-hmm.
tariffs. For example, Section 232. The bottom
Right.
line here is that by using AIPA, Trump did not have to consult with Congress. By
Right.
using any other means,
That's right.
he's going
Mm-hmm.
to have to go either through public consultation through the Department of Commerce, or he's going to have to use or have to go through Congress in order to get approval. That's to me the major issue. Can he continue applying tariffs? Yes. But from now
Mm-hmm.
on, for example, if he's going to have to use the 1974 Trade Act, he's going to have to consult
Congress.
Congress, or he's going to have to use the Department of Commerce and some sort of public consultation or public investigation
Mm-hmm.
prior to levying these tariffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the major issue here.
Well, I ran out of time. You got to come back because we'll just have to kind of look, see what happens in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because there is also a lot of conversations in terms of at what point or when they're going to initiate the USMCA
We need to say one
negotiations.
more thing. We need
Yes,
to say one more thing
yes.
before we finish.
Mm-hmm.
Trump threatened on Friday
Mm-hmm.
for another 25% increase on the steel and aluminum tariffs
Mm-hmm.
starting on Wednesday. I don't think that steel companies are going to stay put this time
I think so.
because, at least if you read the
Mm-hmm.
proclamation issue on the Federal Register,
Mm-hmm.
he says that 25% was enough. So this other 25% has really no basis. This is going to be a legal nightmare.
Oh my God. It's great to have you on the show again. Thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to be knocking on your door very frequently in the next couple of weeks. Dr. Jorge Molina, thank you so much for joining us here on Living in Mexico.
Anytime.
Thank you. Let's go to a break. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. We'll be back. Don't go away.